Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Court Show. We'll have from quite the show as we have a lot to get to in the world of Southern California sports, such as USC and UCLA women's basketball advancing to the Big Ten championship to face one another. Who will come out on top? And how about those Lakers? They've won 8 straight, and they play the oh-so-dreaded Boston Celtics tonight. Can they make it 9 straight in Beantown? Also, the Clippers, they've won 2 straight, but they kind of have been struggling as of late. Can the Clippers turn it around, or are they headed for a dead end? Also, UC San Diego made history as they clinched the number 1 seed of this Big West Conference tournament, and they also took at least share of the Big West regular season title. Can they continue to make history? Can UC Irvine also get to the Big Ten? Also, the Kings have been playing decent. They haven't been using too much, but they've got it to duck, which is kind of unfortunate. So they're trying to. So what's going on with the LA Galaxy? Are they off to a slow start, or can they turn around? All that more here on the SoCal Supreme Court Show. Teran Rodriguez brings you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Court Show here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all those sports. Welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Saturday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 219 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to reach 400 subscribers, at least 400 subscribers, by the end of March. With your help, we can definitely make it happen. Also, make sure to check us out on other podcast platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, JioSaavn, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. And also make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, and hoodies. And also make sure to check out our Hall of Fame where yours truly was inducted as inductee number 10. And so much more on our website. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio is bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports teams around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Raw Nutrition Supplements, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out our amazing sponsors. And also make sure to check out our most recent sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Visit them at getrawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR for 10% off. So we appreciate all of those sponsors Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Planet Jerky, and Raw Nutrition Supplements, being the official sponsors of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show ISR. You can follow me, the host, personally on X, formerly known as Twitter as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. Also, if you can, here, follow the link to the Supporters Club. It'll also be in the description of the show. Being a member of the Sports Club is only $5 a month. Basically, it's one cup of coffee per month. And if you do so, I will first and foremost, I will give you a shout out on every show. And second and foremost, I'll invite you to be a guest on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And in addition, I might even throw in a few more things as the months go on. Like maybe I'll throw in a gift card to show gratitude or something of that sort. But anyway, the Sports Club is down below in the description, and it's also right here. So screenshot it if you wish, and then help the SoCal Supreme Sports Show out, as well as iSports Radio and me personally. All right, let's get on with the SoCal Sports action. So apologies if I didn't go on yesterday afternoon. I was actually at a beach volleyball tournament. For those that don't know, I am the host of Set Point, our volleyball show, which goes on every Monday. But I digress. But I'm here right now, and I can't wait to bring you all the SoCal sports action. So we're actually going to be talking some college hoops first. Well, actually, yeah, we'll talk college hoops. We'll talk some USC, UCLA action. So both teams have advanced to the Big Ten championship. So both those teams had double byes. As we all know from last week, USC took down UCLA in strong fashion at Pauley Pavilion, mind you. It was 80-67, and eventually the Trojans wound up winning the regular season title of the Big Ten, while UCLA took second, which is no big deal. I mean, second is pretty tough. It's pretty good if you ask me, especially in a tough conference such as that. So USC got a double bye, and they didn't have to play until the quarterfinals. And then when all that was said and done, their opponent was none other than Indiana. So I was hoping they wouldn't draw Iowa, because Iowa was actually the team that beat them in Big Ten conference play, the only team that beat them in Big Ten conference play. And in this game against Indiana, it was actually a little tough. So you know how USC kind of had a little bit of a UCLA hangover the first time when USC and UCLA played one another? Or following the first time that both two teams played one another. Well, USC kind of had a little bit of a UCLA hangover against Indiana, because they weren't really blowing out Indiana all that much. They were up 4 at halftime, and then USC eventually led. And then they were only up by 2 at the end of the third quarter. Like, Indiana was bringing it. And Juju Watkins needed to play Superwoman, as she had 31 points. And eventually USC was able to survive and advance as they took down Indiana 84-79. They also got 21 points from Kiki Irfin, along with 10 boards and 3 assists. She also had a battle foul trouble as well. Avery Howell also chipped in 10 points. So all in all, it was a little tough game, as Indiana distributed the ball really well. They had 4 different players with double digits, and they also had 8 points from Sydney Parrish. So that was a very, I wouldn't say tough game, but it was a challenging game, to say the least. And it just shows that there is such thing as a rivalry hangover. Don't let anyone else say otherwise. So, and this could happen in terms of like all sports, whether it's pro sports or collegiate sports, and in any sport. So there you go. All right, but that was that for USC versus Indiana. So that was the quarterfinals of the Big Ten. That was the first match. And maybe the time change kind of hurt USC as well. But for UCLA, they kind of got back on track. They got up off the mat and took down the Nebraska Cornhuskers 85-74. So just like USC, UCLA kind of didn't blow out Nebraska to begin with. They were only up 2 at halftime. Like, UCLA got things going really early. They were up 10 after one quarter. Then Nebraska really started turning it on. But UCLA was only up 2, and thankfully for the Bruins' sake, they were able to just have enough in the tank. Nebraska just could not keep up. They weren't going away that easily, but at the same time, they weren't like backing down. They just could not catch UCLA. As the Bruins were led by Lauren Betts, who had 28 points and 13 boards. She also chipped in 7 blocks and 5 assists. Gabriela Jaquez had 23 points as well as 9 boards, and then Kiki Rice had 14 points. So it was a good win for UCLA. I mean, they had a little bit of a better matchup, a better showing following the USC-UCLA match, which I think is pretty darn good. Like, Nebraska's not really the worst team. They're certainly not the best team, but I think for facing a team like Nebraska, it was a good barometer of where UCLA was following their loss over USC. And like I said to them, I basically said, you got to get them off the mat because the Big Ten Championship is coming. And even if UCLA lost, they still would have been in the tournament. But I think they really want a good seed. They want a good seed, and I think they can get at least a top 4, if not a top 2 seed. But I think having a top 4 seed would be big just because they wouldn't have to leave their beds, and they also would have to run the risk of facing a team on the road. Like, I think last year, UCLA lost to LSU, which was such a bummer for them in the NCAA tournament. But it is what it is, and that was last year, and now this year is a whole different story. So USC and UCLA advanced to the semifinals, which was played today. So USC had the honor of playing Michigan, which, look, I don't know about you all, but I was not predicting Michigan to be in the semifinals. I thought that USC was going to have to draw Maryland, but Michigan played spoiler to said Maryland team. So early on, it wasn't looking too good for SC. Like, Michigan was actually looking very strong against the women of Troy. They were actually, I think they were up by like 10 or so in the second quarter. But USC started to get it going and get it going fast. It doesn't help that Juju Watkins was battling foul trouble. And eventually USC was down at halftime. They were down by 2. But USC, slowly but surely, they started to get it going. They started to creep back in. They were up by 2 at the end of 3 quarters. And eventually USC they found their fire in the 4th quarter. That was the USC everyone had come to expect. That was the number 2 ranked USC. So USC eventually wound up winning 82-70. And thankfully for USC, they were able to pull off the win. I'm thankful they were able to win and they didn't have to lose in the semifinals, which would have been a massive, massive disappointment, if you ask me. So leading USC in the win was Kiki Irefin, who had 25 points and 11 boards. That's what USC needs pretty much whenever Juju Watkins is struggling. I mean, Juju Watkins didn't even make a single 3, and she was 7 for 17 from the field. And she was battling foul trouble, like I mentioned, and she turned the ball over 6 times. Teams are going to throw double teams at Juju Watkins, and USC needs another big time scorer like Kiki Irefin or Rhea Marshall, who had 9 points. They also got 11 points from Avery Howell. So all in all, USC needs that B2B player in terms of helping out Juju Watkins. They need that 1B player. I mean, Juju Watkins is 1A, but they need that 1B player in Irefin. And then for Michigan, they were led by Silas Swords, who had 26 points, and she also had 6 boards. So that was pretty much that for Michigan USC. So USC advances to the Big Ten Championship, whereas UCLA needed to play Ohio State. So I was thinking this was going to be a little bit closer, but after seeing this romping of a matchup, man, UCLA looked really prepared to take down Ohio State, and they did. They stomped all over them, 75-46, and that might have been a good thing for UCLA because they just straight up crushed the Buckeyes, and it almost got to the point where I thought that UCLA was going to be doubling up on Ohio State, but thankfully, Coach Corey Close was able to call off the dogs and pretty much put everything on cruise control. So that was such a huge win for UCLA. I was very impressed because, remember, Ohio State's number 13 in the nation. I thought that UCLA was going to need to grind this one out. But they knew they were determined to try to get the win. And UCLA was led by London Jones, who had 22 points. Yeah, go figure. It looks like, Lauren Betts did play. She only had 12 points, but so did Gabriela Jaquez. But when UCLA has other players stepping up and taking the pressure off of Betts and Jaquez, that's when UCLA starts to become the team that everyone expects them to be. That's when they get number 1 UCLA. All right, but the Big Ten Tournament Championship in women's basketball is set as USC takes on UCLA. I knew we'd get round 3 between the Trojans and the Bruins in women's basketball. I had no doubt. Like I said on X, formerly known as Twitter, via SoCal Supreme Sports Show X account. If it weren't for Iowa being sneaky good and then Maryland and Ohio State being ranked, I would just say let's just play UCLA, USC round 3 already. But you have to play the game. You can't just simulate it. But I'm happy for UCLA and USC that they get another round 2 matchup. And maybe, just maybe, we could see these two teams facing each other in the national championship. I mean, there still is South Carolina. There still is UConn that the teams need to go through. And then Notre Dame's also pretty darn good as well. So we shall see. But that'll do it for some college women's basketball. The Big Ten Championship is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time, for those that are wondering. So I got to salute my boy Marcus Losgrade for popping into the chat room. I appreciate you, sir. And then Ralph Khalil says, good evening, Teran. Have a great show. Amazing was the coverage on the volleyball yesterday and today. Well, thank you, Ralph. I appreciate that. But I won't be talking too much about volleyball today. But I do want to go over some Lakers action. So Lakers are going to be playing the Boston Celtics in a little bit. So just to preview that matchup, the Lakers are the hottest team in the NBA. They've won 8 straight, and they're actually the second best team in the Western Conference. I'm not kidding you. The Lakers are number 2 in the Western Conference. Who would have thunk it? But yeah, that Luka trade is really paying dividends for the Lakers, as they're actually, well, technically even with the with the Denver Nuggets, but the Lakers have played 2 fewer games than the Nuggets. But I still think it's pretty good that the Lakers are legit. They're legit good, and Denver should be thankful that they didn't lose to the Suns last night, but I digress. But for the Lakers, let me just tell you, it feels weird seeing a long winning streak. The last time a team wound up winning 8 straight games, surprisingly was the Lakers, and that was in the 2020 season, and eventually the Lakers wound up winning the NBA championship. So maybe, just maybe, we could be seeing a deep run from the Lakers. I would love to see that happen. Get to draw even with those boys from Boston. Can't believe it. But anyway, Celtics and Lakers are going to be fun. Celtics have also won 3 straight after they lost 3 straight. So Celtics are going to be one tough customer. And the last time these two teams played, the Celtics weren't even at full strength, and the Lakers just blew them out the water. So this time, I could expect the Celtics to really come out guns a-blazing. As remember, the first time was the Lakers beating the Celtics 117-96. This time around, it's going to be a little bit more of an intense matchup, especially since it's going to be played in TD. What is it, like the Boston Garden? I'll forever reference it to that. But yeah, it's going to be played in Boston, and it's going to be one barn burner of a matchup. And the Celtics are still having a great season, even though the Cavaliers are just miles ahead of them for the most part, as well as the entire Eastern Conference. But I think for this matchup, it's going to be fun. It actually comes on momentarily, I think in about 2 minutes. I really can't wait to see what the Lakers and Celtics have in store for us. I'm probably going to be turning it on right after I watch this game, or not after when I watch this game, after I do this show. So there you have it right there. We'll talk more about the NBA a little bit later, but I did want to preview Lakers-Celtics before the Celtics and Lakers both came on, and that'll be played on ABC, and I think it's going to be a very, very, very fun matchup. All right, but that is that for the NBA for the time being. I'll circle the wagons back to that later on, but let's talk a little NCAA men's basketball. So UC San Diego, they're starting to become America's favorite underdog. Okay, maybe underdog isn't, but they're the feel-good story for UC San Diego. Their first year of eligibility in terms of making the postseason and whatnot is starting to become a great feel-good story. And they just clinched a share of the Big West Conference regular season championship, and they also are playing UC Davis on national TV. They're playing them on ESPN2. And I'm just going to say, I think ESPN kind of picked a bad time to showcase UC Davis, or showcase UC Davis and UC San Diego on national TV, because Davis isn't that great this year. I mean, Davis is kind of in the middle of the road when it comes to the Big West Conference, but UC San Diego is miles ahead of them. Dave, and I even kind of told this to my boy Dre or Andre Fernandez, of the host of the NorCal Sports Report, and he said, yeah, Davis isn't that athletic. They're not that strong. So yeah, I expect UC San Diego to pretty much win. They clinched a share of the Big West Conference Championship in terms of the regular season, but not the full thing. If they win tonight, or if UC Irvine loses, then UC San Diego will be outright Big West Conference regular season champions. But the one thing that UC San Diego has clinched is the number 1 overall seed in the Big West Conference tournament. And UC Irvine has also earned the 2nd seed. Both of them have earned double buys into the semifinals, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. So you have that right there for UC San Diego. I think they're having a fantastic season, and I'm still hopeful that we get that we get the 2-bid Big West, like Dan Butterly has been saying. We want the 2-bid Big West. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So speaking of UC Irvine, they actually close off the regular season tonight in Santa Barbara against UC Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is technically the definition of the middle of the road when it comes to Big West Conference. So I don't think that Anteater should have too much problem, but they did have to go over. I do remember that UC Irvine did have to win on a late game buzzer beater from UC Irvine's top player. So if I'm the Anteaters, I don't hold anything back against the Gauchos. And then for Northridge and Riverside are actually right by one another for the 3 and 4 seed. So Northridge actually closes off the regular season against Hawaii. Hawaii has not been the greatest team. If this were in Hawaii, maybe I would give Hawaii somewhat of a chance to maybe pull the upset, but I don't think Northridge is going to be in any danger. Now, UC Riverside, they actually closed off their regular season against Fullerton at Cal State Fullerton. So Riverside should not have any trouble with Cal State Fullerton. And this is no knock on the Titans. They are the worst team in the league. They've only won 6 games. They're fortunate enough to win a conference game. So for the Highlanders, I can expect them they'll either get the 3 seed or they'll get the 4 seed. Either way, SoCal is going to be heavily represented in this Big West Conference because the top 5 teams are from SoCal. So you have that right there, and I think that's pretty incredible. And again, I'm still hoping for that 2-bid Big West in terms of the Big West Conference in men's basketball, just because it deserves it. We want to see UC Irvine and UC San Diego. I think the SoCal schools do not get a whole lot of love just because East Coast bias and nobody sees the late games that late just because no one's up at like midnight or 1 a.m. watching those games. So you have that right there. Or 11 p.m. to watch those games. So you have that right there. But that's pretty much going to do it for the Big West in terms of men's basketball. Now, let's shift over to UCLA. So UCLA, well, the reason I'm just mentioning UCLA is because they're the only interesting SoCal team in men's basketball. I mean, San Diego State is all right, but all right doesn't win you a whole lot of championships. For UCLA, they are actually 6th in the Big Ten conference standings, and they're playing USC right now. So if UCLA wins, then they would pretty much finish tied with Purdue for 6th. If they lose, then they would finish tied for 7th with Illinois. And if I recall correctly, UCLA has a loss to Illinois this year, and that would be Illinois, if you ask me, as UCLA would slip all the way down to 7 in the Big Ten standings, and then that would pretty much be their seeding. I think they would still get a bye, but their path to winning the Big Ten championship in the Big Ten conference tournament would be a little bit tougher. They did recently just beat Northwestern, but they only beat them by 4. They were up, I think, 67 to like 51 or something, or 67, like they were up by I think 15. Yeah, 67 to 52, and then they only wound up winning by 4. I think it was 73 to 69. So hope for UCLA's sake they don't have this much trouble against USC, which USC, they just recently beat Washington, but let's be honest, Washington is the worst team of the Big Ten Conference. That's not really anything to write home about. And that win over Washington actually snapped a 5-game losing streak. They had lost to the likes of Oregon and Ohio State, Rutgers. Look, I don't care what USC's excuse is. The only excuse I'm making for them is that they're a young team. This is Eric Musselman's first year. I don't want to hear any excuses of, the gymnasium was taken over by fans. No. I don't care what the excuse is. We are not using that as an excuse. We are using the excuse of they're a young team. They're in a rebuild mode. They're kind of in a transition year. So honestly, for SC, I don't really expect much from them. I don't expect them to be world beaters and whatnot. And anyone that expects USC to make the NCAA tournament outside of maybe getting the automatic qualifier is mad. They're madder than a Mad Hatter. Even I don't think SC deserves the NCAA tournament. And I think their championship is tonight against UCLA. And I really think that they need to win at least that to make a statement. The last time those two teams played, USC only lost by 4. So if I'm UCLA, I do not hold anything back against them, especially if you want to improve your seeding. But I digress. All right, so the Mountain West Conference, San Diego State actually finished 5th. Not yet, though. They're currently 5th, and I don't think they'll get any higher than 4th. But they can't get any lower than 5th. That's 100% certain. So San Diego State plays Nevada to end off its regular season. Nevada is just a little bit below San Diego State. I mean, they're kind of in that middle of the road or below the middle of the road, so hopefully for San Diego State's sake, they can win that match or win that game and then lock it up so they don't have to see their seed get affected and whatnot, but I digress. But I will say San Diego State is certainly not the San Diego State from 2 seasons ago. That was a special team. Unfortunately, this year's team just does not have the sauce like last year's team or the previous year's team. All right, but that is that for some college men's basketball, and that'll pretty much do it for all things basketball. We'll circle the wagons back to the NBA a little bit later, like I mentioned, but let's take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some MLS, some NHL to discuss, and then we've got some NBA, like I mentioned, and then we'll talk a little NFL with the Chargers making news for the not-so-best reasons. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernan.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Neutral Zone with Adam Karnick and Zach Puplis. Also, make sure to check out The Defining Moment because it's our flagship show, and it might be coming back sooner than you would all expect. But that's for another day. Let's discuss some MLS as we are back with the second segment of the show. So LAFC has actually been doing quite well, which I think has been pretty good if you ask me. And I also got to remember that the MLS has a San Diego team. So San Diego FC, I really can't forget about just because, well, for starters, they're a new team and they're from SoCal. So talking about LAFC, they actually wound up beating the Columbus Fury in the CONCACAF tournament this past Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday, but regardless, LAFC just stomped all over the Fury 3-0. Now, this win over the Fury would have been great 2 years ago in the MLS Cup Championship, but unfortunately it just did not come because everyone hates LAFC, but I digress. They also wound up taking down they took down NYCFC 1-0 last week in MLS play too. So great job to LAFC. Unfortunately, that was kind of where the buck stopped when it came to LAFC, as they wound up losing to the Seattle Sounders today, as they wound up losing 5-2. So yikes. So Seattle got on the board first in the 11th minute, courtesy of Kalani Kosa Rienzi at the 11th minute. And then in the 37th minute, LAFC scored courtesy of Nathan Ordaz. Eventually, it was tied 1-1, so LAFC wasn't getting beaten to a pulp by Seattle, but LAFC did allow the first goal of the second half, courtesy of Paul Rothrock in the 57th minute, and then Jordan Moore scored for Seattle, and then Christian Roldan scored for Seattle. So what was once a 1-1 game, it turned into a 4-1 game, and that's the worst lead to be facing in MLS. For LAFC, they did salvage one goal as David Martinez scored 2 minutes in extra time, but Seattle kind of got the last laugh as Albert Rusniak scored in 2 minutes after that. So LAFC wound up losing 5-2, and it's a bummer because that's actually Seattle's first win of the season, so it's kind of sad if you look at it in one way. So tough one for LAFC. They were bound to lose one eventually, so I can't get too mad. They were outpossessed by Seattle, 58.4% to 41.6%. Seattle had 11 shots on goal to LAFC's 3, and they had an overall shot attempts. LAFC only had 8. Seattle had 14. So and Seattle's goalie wasn't even busy, although LAFC did get the better of that goalie of Seattle's in terms of those 2 goals, but he didn't make any saves while LAFC's goalie was very busy. So, yeah, it was a tough first loss for LAFC, but it is what it is, and you just got to get up off the mat. So that's that for LAFC. I forgot to mention who their next game is, and I think LAFC obviously has the CONCACAF tournament next up on their docket as they face the Columbus Fury in the second leg, which hopefully for their sake should be better. And yeah, that is the next match for LAFC, and hopefully for their sake they can maybe have a better showing. don't know when their next game in terms of MLS play is, but we won't look that far. All they just got to do is focus on the CONCACAF tournament. It's actually going to be on Tuesday, so which the last week they actually faced the Columbus Crew. But there you go. All right, now let's move on to the LA Galaxy, and the Galaxy are on the struggle bus. So the Galaxy lost to the Vancouver Whitecaps 2-1 in MLS play, which really sucks. And this was 1 week after they got beaten down. Well, not beaten down, but they got beaten by San Diego FC in their inaugural match. So Vancouver kicked things off in the second minute with a goal courtesy of Sam Adekugbe. So 2 minutes in, and the Galaxy are down 1-0. The Galaxy eventually did get on the board in the 39th minute as Gabriel Peck scored, and suddenly it was 1-1, and the Galaxy were tied with the Whitecaps 1-1. But Vancouver scored pretty late in the game as they scored in the 87th minute, courtesy of Brian White, and the Galaxy just could not find that equalizer, so the Galaxy wound up losing 2-1. They are still searching for that first win of theirs. Tough times for the Galaxy, but unfortunately when your players are getting hurt or losing them to free agency, that's what happens. And the crazy thing is that the Whitecaps didn't dominate in terms of time of possession. They only had 2% more in terms of time of possession when it came to them and the Galaxy. Galaxy only had 2 shots on goal, while Vancouver had 4. Vancouver had 15 shot attempts overall, and then the Galaxy only had 6 shot attempts. So, yeah, tough day at the office for the Galaxy last Saturday. And they kind of had a little bit of a tougher day as they actually opened up the CONCACAF Champions Cup first leg. So I guess for the Galaxy, they got a first round bye into the CONCACAF. They didn't have to play. In the first round of 32. I think it might have been because they were MLS Cup champions, or maybe it's because they wound up winning a tournament. I'm not certain, but the Galaxy lost to Herediano 1-0. So long story short, the Galaxy, they dominated possession. They were one shot on goal short of tying Herediano. And unfortunately for the Galaxy, it just was not their game. And this was kind of the game where you wish you could have won. This game was not played in LA. It was played in where Herediano is. It was in Estadio Jose Rafael Felio Meza Ivankovic, a.k.a. Costa Rica. So, yeah, it was a bummer loss for the Galaxy, but it's only the first leg. So they got to get the second leg, and the Galaxy are just really going through it. And tomorrow, the Galaxy actually face off against St. Louis City SC in LA, or in Carson for that matter. So I'm hoping for the Galaxy's sake they can get their first win, because I can't imagine seeing a team the reigning champion starting off 0-3 to start a season. That would be sad. That would be sad. But for Real Salt Lake, or for San Diego, they actually kick off action against Real Salt Lake later on tonight in Salt Lake. So for San Diego, they actually tied with St. Louis City SC as they wound up tying with them by a score of 0-0. So only 3 combined shots on goal for both teams. And believe it or not, St. Louis City SC actually only had 2 shot attempts altogether. Meanwhile, San Diego FC had 15 shot attempts, which I think is wild if you ask me. And the even crazier thing is that San Diego FC crushed it in terms of time of possession. They had 71.7% of time of possession, and St. Louis just could not get any goals, or they could not get any goals against St. Louis. But it is what it is, and San Diego, well, I'll give San Diego this. They haven't allowed a goal in their first 2 matches. But I want to see them continue their great work, as they've got Real Salt Lake, which starting off, they are 1-0-1. They have 1 win and 1 loss. So we shall see what happens when it comes to our newly found San Diego team from the MLS. It's kind of exciting having 3 teams from SoCal, and it's even more exciting to see San Diego actually shine. But for me personally, I am just Galaxy all the way. So there you go. As Larry B says, I see you, Teran, and Lakers says, the Lakers better not blow this. And yeah, and then Larry also mentions the poor Cal State Fullerton Titans. He says go Highlanders, and then USC mentions USC, and then he also mentions, just like Ralph, he says great coverage the last 2 days, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, Larry. I appreciate the salute in terms of that, and I'll be talking some more beach volleyball on Set Point, but I guess while Larry mentions Fight On, I should mention that poor USC beach volleyball lost to Cal yesterday 3-2. And keep in mind, Cal is number 9 in the nation, while USC is number 3. So, and the worst part is that USC actually got reversed. They won the first 2 matches, and then they wound up losing the next 3. They won the first 2 in close fashion, by the way, and then they wound up losing the next 3 in straight sets. And it's like, no, USC, you can't be doing this. Yeah, and I was just keeping tabs on that via its a score tracker, and I was, after seeing USC go up 2-0, I was thinking, okay, well, as long as USC is earning the wins and they're leading, no, USC just unfortunately pooped the bed, and I hate to say that. I don't like, what's the word? Bad mouthing SC, but USC, I am very sad. I'm very sad you lost. But at least I didn't have to see you in person. I didn't have to see you lose in person. But I digress. Anyway, moving on to the NHL on that little detour. So pretty much the same has happened in terms of last week. The Kings are still in 3rd place. Edmonton actually won today, so Edmonton is now 5 points ahead of the Kings, who are playing now against the Blues. And yeah, my good golly gracious, the Kings are going through what's it called? They're going through a little bit of a slump, if you ask me, and that's concerning if you're the Kings, because it's a miracle that they've lost 5 straight games. They lost Wednesday to St. Louis in a shootout, 3-2. They lost on Monday to Chicago. My goodness, Chicago, the Blackhawks. They lost to them 5-1. Last Saturday, they lost to the Blues 4-1, and oh, go figure, they face them tonight. I mean, 4 of those losses on that were on the road trip, but they also lost to the Dallas Stars, or they lost to the Vancouver Whitecaps in overtime 3-2 at home. So, yikes. It's any wonder why I always describe the Kings as a very good home team, but their away schedule looks a little bit to be desired. And what's crazy is that the Kings are still in 3rd place. You would think with a 5-game losing streak, the Kings would be out of 1st place and behind Vancouver and Calgary. But by the holy grace of the hockey gods, the Kings are still in 3rd place. They are 2 points ahead of Vancouver, 3 points ahead of Calgary, and 10 points ahead of Anaheim, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, the Kings need to win this one. They need to beat the Blues. If they can't beat the Blues, then there is a problem with this Kings team, because it's one thing to have like a few games lost here and there, but to have a 5-game losing streak. This is actually their 2nd time they've had a 4+ losing streak. They had a 4-game losing streak in January or late January. So after they play the St. Louis Blues, or tomorrow they're actually at the Vegas Golden Knights. Tuesday they're home against the New York Islanders, and then Thursday they're home against the Washington Capitals, and the next Saturday they're home against Nashville. So this would be a good time for the Kings to gain some ground. I really hope for their sake they can gain some ground, just because it's wild that they're 3 points ahead of Calgary or Vancouver and Calgary, but they haven't moved an inch, even though they have lost 5 straight. But I guess that's how hockey works sometimes. Now for the Ducks, I talked about them last week about how they're not far away from being out of a playoff spot, but now they haven't really moved. They have not moved the needle a whole lot, as they've lost 2 straight. They lost to Vancouver yesterday 4-3. They lost to St. Louis yesterday 4-3, and then they lost to Vancouver on the road on Wednesday 3-2. They did beat Edmonton 6-2, but last Saturday they lost 6-3 against Chicago, which was absolutely disgusting, dude. Like, they lost to the freaking Blackhawks. I'm sorry, no offense to Blackhawks fans, but you can't lose to the freaking Blackhawks. Unacceptable, dude. So tomorrow the Ducks will host the New York Islanders. Tuesday they will host the Washington Capitals, and then Wednesday the Ducks will head down to Utah to take on the Utah Hockey Club. And then Friday the Ducks will host the Nashville Predators, and then they'll go on a 3-game road trip to take on the Blues, the Stars, and the Predators. So do I think the Ducks can actually make the postseason? I wouldn't hold my breath on it if you ask me. And the Islanders are okay, but Washington is on Ovechkin watch. And then Utah, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah wound up winning that one. Nashville is bad. St. Louis should be pretty decent. Dallas should be pretty decent. Nashville, I just mentioned. So hopefully, for the Ducks' sake, they're able to get their you-know-what together, and they're hopefully going to be stringing together some wins. Because it only takes a 3 or 4 game winning streak to get them back into close to being in postseason contention. And a 5-game winning streak would definitely have them chilling in a spot. But the longest win streak that they've had is a 3-game winning streak, and that's happened 3 different times. Maybe the Ducks shouldn't have a 5-game losing streak sometime down the road, as they had one early in the season. They had a 4-game win streak in mid-January, and they had a 3-game losing streak in early January. So if the Ducks want to somehow make the playoffs, you know what they got to do? Not have losing streaks. There we go. All right, that is going to do it for the NHL portion of the show. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got the release of Joey Bosa being the end of an era. Then we've also got Lakers and Clippers full deep on dive. And then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Are you a fan of Minnesota sports? Do you love the Vikings and hate the Packers? Are you a fan of the Timberwolves, Twins, Wild, Lynx, St. Paul Saints? Here on the Bold North Breakdown, we'll talk about all of those professional teams as well as all the college teams in the area. That's your basketball teams, football, hockey, volleyball, men's and women's sports alike. We talk about them all. Here on the Bold North Breakdown. Join me, your host, Glenn Ritter, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central to discuss all that is happening in the Minnesota sports scene here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final segment of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows, especially Let's Wine About DMV Sports, which will be going on momentarily. Mike Pat just has a little bit of trouble with a person, but I digress. Anyway, let's get on with the final segment of the show. So the Chargers unfortunately made the news for not so good reasons. The Chargers released Joey Bosa. So is this good or is this bad for the Chargers? Well, Joey Bosa, let me start off by saying this. This is the last player from the original San Diego Chargers. So it's the end of an era. So it's unfortunate that the Chargers did release Joey Bosa, being real, because Joey Bosa, when healthy and when he's playing, he could really terrorize opposing teams' offenses. If your O-line was not good, Joey Bosa was going to be charging in and taking down your quarterback ASAP. But the Chargers have unfortunately seen a lot of not so fully healthy seasons with Joey Bosa. Joey is a fantastic player. Let's get that out of the way. He's a fantastic player. I think he was one of those cornerstone pieces, and he was such a great player in terms of like a great team player of restructuring his contract to help make cap space for certain other free agents like J.K. Dobbins and whatnot. But unfortunately, cutting Joey Bosa actually saved $25 million, which actually puts the Chargers at the second highest cap space in the NFL, which I think is pretty darn good if you ask me. So, is this good for the Chargers? It can be. I mean, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but Joey Bosa did not have the most healthiest season. Like, he was more often than not either on IR where he was injured and missing time, which really does not help. So it really sucks that Joey Bosa was released. I would have liked to have seen the Chargers trade him, but I guess no one really wanted to bargain with like a second or third round pick. But I do wish Joey Bosa nothing but the best. I have had my blow-ups when it comes to him, whether he was lined up offsides or whether he got a roughing the passer penalty or a personal foul penalty. But yeah, Joey Bosa, I do wish him nothing but the best, and I wish him nothing but happiness. He's a fantastic player, and I wish everything could have played out a little bit better for him. But unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. But I'm sure he'll be better with someone else next season. I think he's going to do great things. I still think he has a few years left. I mean, it's after 9 seasons, he'll be entering year 10, and I'm sure he's going to be a Hall of Fame candidate. I just hope he doesn't go to like a team that I don't really like to see, like the Raiders or the or the Chiefs, or heaven forbid the Niners. Everyone's speculating that the Bosa brothers are going to be united, which God, the Niners don't need that, especially since Brock Purdy needs protection. But I digress. Anyway, that is going to do it for the Chargers. Just wanted to get that news out of the way. I'm not going to really go into a deep dive of the Rams and Chargers. I mean, I talked about Rams last week with my brother, and this week I'm going to talk Chargers. So there you have it right there. All right, so that's that for the brief NFL portion of the show. So let's circle the wagons back to the NBA. So Lakers have won 8 straight, while the Clippers have have now won 2 straight after they had lost 3 straight. So circling the wagons back to the NBA, we all know the Lakers are the hottest team in the NBA. They are second in the Western Conference, or at least tied with second in the Western Conference, which I think is pretty darn awesome if you ask me. And I guess since I'm on the ESPN website, I might as well give you all an update on the score. It's 32-33 between the Celtics and the Lakers after one quarter. I think we're going to be expecting fireworks from these two teams. There's no debate. But some of the Lakers' most recent games have been rather interesting. So they took on the Knicks on Thursday, and they wound up barely beating them in overtime, 113-109. So I'm just going to say this. The Knicks losing Jalen Brunson was the worst thing that could happen to them. Like, Jalen Brunson was literally carrying the Knicks in overtime. He had all 6 points at one point, and then he rolled his ankle, and then he was able to make the 2 free throws after he rolled his ankle. Kind of was like when Kobe ruptured his Achilles, and then he had to make 2 free throws, and then he went out. All the difference was that said injured player's team had the different result. Kobe's team won, while the Knicks unfortunately lost. But yeah, Luka Doncic had himself a nice little game for the Lakers against said Knicks team on prime time as Luka Doncic, if I recall, he had 32 points, but didn't he have like a triple-double? Just got to confirm that. No, he didn't. He had 31 points, 12 boards, and 8 assists. That was LeBron. Luka had 32 points, 12 assists, and 7 boards. LeBron had 31 points, 8 assists, and 12 boards. And then Gabe Vincent came off the bench with 12 points. He actually was one of the reasons why the Lakers probably won. And Dalton Connect also had some big moments. He had a key three-pointer to end the third quarter. And honestly, I'm glad Dalton Connect is still on my team. Same with Gabe Vincent. I think those were the two that were going to be traded to the Hornets for Mark Williams, but I digress. Lakers shot over 42% from the field. They made 1/3 of their threes. They did turn the ball over quite a bit, but thankfully for the Lakers' sake, they had Luka and LeBron to save the day. Sorry, I just had to adjust my table here, but yeah. Against the Pelicans, this one was a little bit more different. This was a Tuesday game, and the Lakers just stomped all over the Pelicans, 136-115. It is also worth noting that the Lakers still won the Anthony Davis trade. I don't care what anyone says. The Pelicans lost the Anthony Davis trade, and then some. Don't even debate it. I know Anthony Davis does not play for the Lakers anymore, but he wound up winning the Lakers a chip. The Pelicans did do squat diddly. There you go. And then last Sunday, the Lakers took on the Clippers again, this time not on national TV because we get to see the Lakers quite a bit when it comes to national TV. But in the second round of the Battle of LA for the Lakers and Clippers, the Lakers wound up winning their second straight game over the third straight game of the Clippers, but second in 3 nights, where the Lakers wound up winning 108-102. Now, unfortunately, this game was blacked out just because I'm not in SoCal. I'm still visiting my brother. But the Lakers looked very strong for the most part. First half, they were actually up by 13, which I thought the Lakers had finally gotten over their ugliness. And then they were up 12 at the end of the third quarter, but the Clippers still hung around. They did get blown out, but they didn't shy away. Eventually, the Lakers still had just enough in the tank to outlast the Clippers. So for the Lakers, they were led by Luka Doncic, who had 29 points, 9 assists, and 6 boards. LeBron James had 17 points and 9 assists. And then Dorian Finney-Smith added 10 points to go along with 4 rebounds. He was also plus 24, which meant that he did not turn the ball all that much, which is good. And then for the Clippers, they were led by Kawhi Leonard, who had 33 points and 10 boards. Ivica Zubac had 12 points and 10 boards. James Harden had 13 points. Chris Dunn had 15 points. Bogdan Bogdanovic had 12 points. So Clippers are, okay, well, the Lakers, just to conclude on them, they are the hottest team in the NBA, and hopefully they can keep up their hot streak against the C's. As for the Clippers, okay, after that, the 2 losses against the Lakers, I was thinking, okay, well, the Lakers are doing pretty good, and the Clippers don't really have too much info on Luka when playing for the Lakers. So I think they were going to be fine despite losing, right? No. They lost to the Suns on Tuesday, 119 to 117. And the sad part is the Clippers led by 20 plus, and they wound up losing to the Suns. I don't care what the excuse is. I don't care if it was a road game. I don't not care. The Suns are garbage truck juice. And you mean to tell me the Lakers or the Clippers wound up losing to the Suns? That's just disappointing if you ask me. And it was so bad that the Clippers were actually down to 9th in the Western Conference. I was like, what is going on with the Clippers? This isn't like them. They're never this inconsistent. They're so bad that even Golden State has surpassed them. But Golden State's playing good basketball while the Clippers have not. Thankfully for the Clippers, they've actually gotten themselves back into the win column. They beat the Pistons on Wednesday, I think it was. It was either Wednesday or Thursday. But regardless, the Clippers taking down the Pistons was pretty good, if you ask me. They took them down 113 to 123 to 115. As James Harden put up a 50 burger on them boys. He put 50 on the Pistons' heads, which I thought was pretty good. That's a real good way to turn back the clock and get some wins. Clippers also shot 55% from the field, which is actually pretty good if you ask me. And they also shot over 50% from three-point land. So Clippers are doing the thing. It was good that they got this one. If they had lost this one, it would have been quite disastrous. And it was actually I think it actually was the first 50-point game the Clippers have ever had. And he had his first ever. Well, actually, no. I think it's the first 50-point game that James Harden's had for the Clippers, period. But for this game, it was close in the first half, and then the Clippers started to pull away. And thankfully for the Clippers, they needed this win in the worst way. I guess it helps when they're back at home and whatnot, but it is what it is. But in addition, Bogdan Bogdanovic had 23 points. Ibaka Zubac had 22 points and 11 boards. Nick Batum wasn't all that spectacular. It looks like they didn't play Kawhi Leonard. No, they didn't. Probably needed load management. Probably the load management and whatnot. But I digress in that regard. Yeah, and this was a game on Wednesday. So Friday they wound up playing the New York Knicks, and that one was also pretty good. But let's be honest. No Jalen Brunson. That was not gonna bode well for the Knicks. Eventually the Clippers wound up beating the Knicks by a final score of 105 to 95. Yeah, the Knicks were not gonna lose to a Jalen Brunson-less Knicks team. As leading the Clippers in the win was James Harden, who had 27 points and 7 boards. Ibaka Zubac had 16 points and 14 boards. Kawhi Leonard had 20 points. Nick Batum had 17 points. And that was pretty much that. It got so bad for the Knicks that their leading scorer was Karl-Anthony Towns, which actually isn't bad, but this is where you really miss Jalen Brunson. They started Miles McBride. Not good, Knicks. But yeah, what is good for the Clippers is that they've now won 2 straight. So there you go. That's going to pretty much do that for the Clippers in terms of recapping their most recent games. They actually play the Sacramento Kings tomorrow, so hopefully for the Clippers' sake, they can start stringing together some wins because they're currently 8th in the Western Conference standings, which would put them in the play-in game. But honestly, that's not too bad of a thing. That's not too terrible. But for the Clippers, they want to avoid that play-in game. But I will say Warriors are playing some good basketball as of late, and that's really what's scaring me. And then they're also behind Minnesota. The Kings are actually right behind the Clippers, so the Clippers cannot afford to lose that. And then if it weren't for the Mavericks losing Anthony Davis for what could be most of the season, if not the rest of the season, and then Kyrie tore his Achilles or ACL, I would say that the Clippers would be in deep, deep trouble, but the Dallas Mavericks are going through it quite a bit. And I'm not trying to turn this into the Dallas sports show. This is the SoCal sports show, but the Clippers, they need to snap themselves out of it. Otherwise, they could be looking at a first-round date with either the Thunder or the Lakers. I think that the Lakers could be a better matchup for the Clippers, but the Thunder would be a nightmare. So Clippers are going to do everything in their power to avoid that play-in tournament, but I digress. All right, but that's that for the NBA. So now let's jump on into our Dum Dum of the Week. So I actually have two Dum Dums of the Week. Dum Dum of the Week is the one I like to give out to when it comes to someone or an organization that does or says something says something dumb. No one is safe from this award. So I actually have two of these Dum Dum of the Week awards to give out. And last Sunday, unfortunately, I got some sad and, well, okay, not sad and unfortunate news, but this was some disappointing news, if you ask me. So in Dallas, or in this Bedford or Texas area, in this DFW area, there was a cheer competition, and it was on Sunday, and apparently there was, sadly, a fight that was broken out. I think it was by parents. I'm not entirely certain, but someone broke a fight when it came to this, and I'm certain it had to have been some parents. And look, I'm just going to say this. This is kind of the reason why youth sports are kind of being in the endangered species list, because parents are stupid and they don't want to be smart. Because who the heck starts a fight at a freaking cheerleading competition? This is a cheerleading competition. And you mean to tell me parents are starting fights? Come on, dude. Be smart. I'm sorry, but that's just disappointing if you ask me. Starting a fight at a freaking cheerleading competition. What'd the parent do? Did the parent say, my kid is way better than yours, or something of that sort? It was very frustrating. Unless there was a weird person being around the cheerleaders, then I could see that being excusable. But the parents starting a fight with one another, or having a fight in general, is just disappointing. And the kids felt embarrassed, and everyone felt embarrassed and whatnot, and they felt scared. It's going to get to the point where every sporting event is going to need to have security, whether it's softball, baseball, basketball, football, cheerleading, you name it. There's going to be security at a whole bunch of these events. This is not an event that should not have a lot of security. But to the parents that started this fight, or to whomever started this fight in terms of the cheerleading competition in the DFW area, you're Dum Dum of the Week, and you ought to think about what you've done for ruining other kids' lives. Or your life, for that matter. All right, so Dum Dum of the Week number 2. All right, we got to talk this over when it comes to Thursday. So Thursday, as we all know, the Lakers took down the Knicks in overtime. Afterward, LeBron approached Stephen A. And this was actually an article that my brother gave me. He gave me an article that said to Stephen A. Smith, with all due respect, please stop when it comes to Bronny James and whatnot. And that's what LeBron and Stephen A. pretty much talked about. They talked about why Stephen A. Smith said that in his article. He said what he said about LeBron James and Bronny. He said, stop this at once. And then LeBron said, keep my son's name out of your mouth, son. Mouth dog. And look, I get it. LeBron and Stephen A., there's no reason that they should have a beef. But instead of talking about, I don't know, the Bronny James and whatnot, why don't you talk about the South Carolina women's basketball game that was amazing, or the fact that Jalen Brunson nearly carried the Knicks to victory, or something of that other sort, or Luka's big game. But to go up and approach. And I don't really know who to give the Dum Dum of the Week to. I'd probably give it to Stephen A. because you can't just approach an athlete like that and just say negative things. LeBron I don't want to give LeBron too much benefit of the doubt, but LeBron literally played his tail off in that Knicks overtime win. Or in that game against the Knicks in the overtime win for the Lakers. But yeah, Stephen A. Smith, I like Stephen A. Smith personally. I don't think he's terrible, but he can get so annoying. So Stephen A., I think you got to take the Dum Dum of the Week award. Nothing personal, bro, but the fact that you went up to LeBron and said, stop this whole LeBron James nonsense is kind of frustrating. You were the one that sparked this whole thing by making me going on air and mentioning for LeBron to stop with the comments. And then LeBron should have just not even said anything to Stephen A. He should have just kept on walking instead of just having to deal with Stephen A. If that were me, I would just say, hey, what's up? And just run back into the tunnel and just not even pay attention. If anything, I would just release a statement or do anything of that sort. But I digress. I mean, LeBron's on social media when it comes to X and Instagram as well. But honestly, Stephen A. Smith, you kind of got to slow your roll when it comes to saying these things. And that's kind of the reason why you get Dum Dum of the Week. So there you go. those are my two dum-dums of the week. And I kind of got to give myself mini dum-dum of the week because I actually emailed. So remember when my boy Larry was talking about the volleyball coverage from the last 2 days? Well, I actually emailed the wrong person. I emailed the director of operations in terms of women's indoor volleyball and not women's beach volleyball. So yeah, that was a fail on my part. Fortunately, the director of beach volleyball operations got back to me just like that on Thursday. Like, he got back to me so quickly, it was not even funny. Like, he got back to me in like a minute. That might be a world record in terms of athletic directors or SIDs or director of operations getting back to me. So good on Jerry Drummond of TCU Athletics. And I got to learn to actually read along the lines in terms of who these admins are, but I digress. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. I should be back on my normal time and day next week. And set point, I obviously will be talking about the beach volleyball that I covered, as well as all things volleyball. So for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have an amazing rest of the weekend. Enjoy all the SoCal sports action. Let's go Lakers. Let's take down those green beans and the Boston Celtics. And I'll see you Monday for set point. Have a great rest of the weekend. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace.